Good morning. My name is Smith, and I will be your examiner for today's IELTS speaking test. My examiner identification number is X98765. Could you please state your full name and identification number for the record?
Good morning, Ms. Smith. My name is John Brown, and my identification number is A12345.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I will now check your identification. Please present your passport or identification card.
Certainly, here's my passport.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Everything seems to be in order. Now, let's proceed to the first part of the speaking test. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Great. In this part, I will ask you some questions about yourself. Let's start with the topic of the countryside. What is your opinion about living in the countryside?
Personally, I think living in the countryside has its own unique charm. The peaceful surroundings, fresh air, and beautiful natural landscapes make it an appealing place to reside.
That's interesting. What are some advantages of living in the countryside?
One significant advantage is the tranquility that comes with living in the countryside. Away from the hustle and bustle of city life, people can experience a more relaxed and peaceful environment. Additionally, the countryside often offers a stronger sense of community and closer connections with neighbors.
I see. Are there any disadvantages of living in the countryside?
While there are many advantages, there are also a few drawbacks to consider. For example, access to certain amenities and services, such as hospitals or shopping centers, may be limited in rural areas. Furthermore, transportation options might be less convenient compared to urban areas.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Now, let's move on to the topic of nature. How important do you think it is for people to connect with nature?
I believe it is crucial for people to connect with nature. In today's fast-paced and technology-driven world, spending time in nature allows individuals to recharge, unwind, and reconnect with their surroundings. It promotes mental and physical well-being, and helps foster a sense of appreciation for the natural world.
That's well said. In what ways can people connect with nature in their everyday lives?
There are several ways people can connect with nature on a daily basis. They can engage in outdoor activities like hiking, gardening, or simply taking a walk in a nearby park. Additionally, spending time in green spaces or cultivating plants and flowers at home can bring a touch of nature into their living environments.
Excellent points, Mr. Brown. Now, let's discuss the topic of environmental conservation. What can individuals do to contribute to the preservation of the environment?
Individuals can make a significant impact by adopting environmentally friendly habits such as conserving energy and water, recycling, and reducing waste. Additionally, supporting sustainable practices and raising awareness about environmental issues can encourage others to take action.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. That concludes the first part of the speaking test. We will now move on to part 2. Please wait for your cue. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Now, for part 2 of the speaking test, I'm going to give you a topic to talk about for 1 to 2 minutes. You will have 1 minute to prepare, and you can make notes if you wish. The topic is, describe a memorable experience you had in the countryside. Please start speaking after the 1-minute preparation time.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. All right. One memorable experience I had in the countryside was when I went camping with my friends last summer. We decided to escape the city and explore the natural beauty of a nearby national park. We set up our tents near a picturesque lake surrounded by lush greenery. As evening fell, we gathered around a campfire, sharing stories and roasting marshmallows. The night sky was absolutely breathtaking, filled with countless stars that seemed to twinkle brighter than ever. The next morning, we woke up to the melodious songs of birds and the gentle rustling of leaves. We embarked on a hiking trail that led us through dense forests and meadows. The air was so crisp and refreshing, and the scent of wildflowers filled our senses. During our hike, we stumbled upon a hidden waterfall tucked away in a secluded corner of the park. The sight of the cascading water, surrounded by moss-covered rocks and vibrant vegetation, was truly mesmerizing. We couldn't resist the temptation to take a dip in the crystal-clear pool beneath the waterfall, which was both invigorating and exhilarating. Throughout our camping trip, we had the opportunity to disconnect from technology and embrace the simplicity of nature. We spent our days exploring, hiking, and immersing ourselves in the tranquility of the countryside. It was a much-needed break from the hectic pace of city life and allowed us to rejuvenate both physically and mentally. Overall, this experience in the countryside left a lasting impression on me. It reminded me of the beauty and serenity that nature offers and reinforced the importance of preserving our natural environment.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. That was a wonderful description of your memorable experience in the countryside. Now, let's move on to part 3. Thank you, Mr. Brown, for sharing your memorable experience in the countryside. Now, in part 3, let's delve deeper into the broader aspects of the topic. I will ask you a series of questions, and I'd like you to provide detailed answers based on your opinions and experiences. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Great. Let's start with the impact of urbanization on rural areas. How do you think the process of urbanization affects the countryside?
Urbanization undoubtedly brings both advantages and disadvantages to rural areas. On the positive side, it can lead to improved infrastructure, better access to services, and increased job opportunities. However, rapid urbanization can also result in the loss of agricultural land, destruction of natural habitats, and increased pollution. It's important to strike a balance between urban development and the preservation of the countryside.
That's an insightful perspective. Now, let's discuss the importance of preserving traditional rural practices. In your opinion, why is it crucial to maintain traditional agricultural practices in the countryside?
Traditional agricultural practices carry valuable cultural and environmental significance. They often have deep roots in local traditions and have sustained communities for generations. By preserving these practices, we can maintain cultural heritage, promote sustainable farming methods, and preserve biodiversity. Additionally, traditional agriculture can offer alternative models to large-scale industrial farming, emphasizing a more harmonious relationship with the environment.
Well explained, Mr. Brown. Moving on, let's talk about the role of technology in rural areas. How do you think advancements in technology can benefit the countryside?
Technology can bring numerous benefits to rural areas. For instance, access to high-speed internet and digital connectivity can bridge the gap between urban and rural communities. It enables farmers to access information on best practices, market trends, and weather conditions, empowering them to make informed decisions. Furthermore, technology can facilitate e-commerce and online platforms, allowing rural entrepreneurs to showcase their products and reach wider markets.
That's a valid point. On the other hand, what challenges do you think rural communities might face in adopting and adapting to new technologies?
One significant challenge is the availability and affordability of technology infrastructure in remote areas. Limited access to reliable internet connections and the cost of acquiring and maintaining technology devices can pose obstacles for rural communities. Additionally, there may be a learning curve for individuals who are less familiar with technology, requiring support and training to fully benefit from its potential.
Thank you for your insights, Mr. Brown. Lastly, let's discuss the importance of promoting sustainable tourism in rural areas. Why do you think sustainable tourism practices are crucial for the countryside?
Sustainable tourism ensures that the natural and cultural resources of rural areas are protected and preserved for future generations. It promotes responsible travel, minimizing negative impacts on the environment, local communities, and their way of life. By embracing sustainable tourism practices, rural areas can leverage their unique natural landscapes, cultural heritage, and traditional practices to create a positive and authentic visitor experience while fostering long-term economic and environmental sustainability.
Excellent points, Mr. Brown. That concludes the third part of the speaking test. You have shared some valuable insights on the topic of the countryside. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. It was my pleasure.
You're welcome, Mr. Brown. Good luck with your future endeavors.